We're here in Berlin at the Block Show Europe, and we're here with Johanna Maska from the Global Situation Room. Very welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And what does the Global Situation Room actually do?
We work on, we're a consulting firm, so we work on global good, global trade, and global risk. It's built with former U.S. ambassadors, national security staff, and White House staff like myself. So I was Director of Press Advance for President Obama. That means from the beginning of the Iowa caucuses until 2015, I set up a lot of the images that you saw around the world. I traveled with President Obama to 42 countries. I finally counted. It was more than 40. I got to that, I stopped counting.
And every state.
In almost every state. So it was an incredible pleasure. I set up some of the summits that you saw around the world, APEC, NATO, G8 summits. And so now working with Global Situation Room, we work with companies and organizations, individuals who believe like we do that we need to be looking at the forefront of new technologies, advances in global good, global trade, and global risk.
All right. And how was it to work with Mr. Obama? I mean,
it was always my honor to work with President Obama. I started back at the beginning of the Iowa caucuses when not so many people were as enthusiastic as I was. We would have times when we were trying to grab a crowd. Those days changed, but.
You were revolutionary with the campaign. Huh?
Yeah, it was given credit for one of the most digitally savvy campaigns. But I would argue that engagement, my role was pretty crucial to that outcome and that success. Because if you look at the most recent campaign, I think they followed some of our digital tactics and didn't follow some of our in-person engagement tactics. So it's a real important component to how we found our success.
Also with data privacy, for instance.
Well, that's actually a really good point. So technology changed the world so vastly while we were in the White House. And I was looking at technologists thinking, the possibility here. There's so much good to be had. I think technologists need to make sure that we have diverse representation in these sectors to really represent the people that the solutions will affect around the globe. So interestingly, later today, we'll speak about blockchain regulation. And to that extent, I believe that regulation will actually help this industry because right now I believe it's pretty siloed in a technologist space. In order to actually do the good that is potential, that more people need to be involved.
So you actually, with the Global Situation Room, you're also going to lobby for new...
We don't lobby.
Oh, you don't lobby?
We don't lobby, no. What we do is we work with the companies and organizations to help them think through the strategy to have impact. We very much care that they share our values of global good and that their solution is one that's applicable to people and that they're an inclusive company and representative of those values. And those are the kinds of companies we enjoy working with.
And maybe you have examples of clients you work for, or can you name a few? Fortune 500 companies?
I appreciate that. We actually are a strategic partner of Porter Novelli, so we work to service a lot of global clients that are fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, USA is an enormous market, also, for instance, for cryptocurrency, and but of course the ICO market for instance, there's no ICO regulation in that sense. How do you look at that? Yeah, at that topic. I mean,
there's some taxation, and then actually the U.S., the federal government, and some state governments are already implementing some blockchain technologies. So there's applications, like I said, in looking to the possibilities with this technology. It really could facilitate a lot of very quick and more. Like if you're looking at healthcare, for example, they could more rapidly pick up an epidemic so that we could save more lives. Those kinds of things are promising technologies that the U.S. is adopting, and that's great.
Climate, for instance, in California.
Yeah, climate. We have significant problems with water in California. So whether whether we can use these technologies on these kinds of applications and really see outcome is, I think, to be seen in large ways. It's already happening, but I think the possibilities are really greater. So, when you're talking about are people using it, in fact, there are some people who are even running for Congress in the U.S. who are doing cryptocurrency fundraisers. It's right now, I would argue, kind of the Wild West because there aren't so many rules on some of these things. I believe that rules help because they set a structure and they really take something out of a silo of technologists and put it into a mainstream silo. So on the panel this afternoon, I'll be talking about what I think is the potential in getting involved with people, with leaders in government, and talking to them about the potential. So my aim, my goal is that technologists, like at this conference, if they truly believe in global good, are not scared to work with governments, but rather seek to work with governments on bringing real solutions at scale. Oh, sorry.
No problem. We're at the conference.
Yeah.
So actually, for instance, I think of tax paying. I heard a county in Florida actually has incorporated the blockchain technology to actually pay your taxes with blockchain. But there are several applications possible.
Yeah, and I think, if you look at cryptocurrency, I would argue that it's still a pretty small percentage of people, and mostly men, who own a lot of the cryptocurrency, which is a problem. And I think until that it's more widespread, it'll continue to be a real hurdle. It'll be a real hurdle because right now with the small ownership, it's actually it presents a lot of challenges for anyone is going to see that as a big risk. Because if someone decided to, cash out all of their crypto, they could really devastate or change significantly a market. I'm a consumer. So, I often say to folks in this space, they need to be concerned about the consumer because regulations come about in several different ways. But like for Europe with GDPR, it wasn't proactive prevention of people's personal data being stolen. It was reactionary after personal data was stolen, and when that happens, it actually has really wide regulation that may not be what folks would think would be the best regulation for this market, but rather a reactionary policy that swings the pendulum towards the consumers. And I'm always going to be on the side of consumers having protection and of looking at that, holistic picture of global good. But I believe that technologists need to be involved in that discussion, and now. Because if they do that, they're going to probably have a much better space in which to innovate than if they wait until the regulatory bodies come after them.
Sounds good. So a few more questions, Johanna. I mean, do you trade yourself?
No.
Not
I do not. I know. I got to figure out this game. But right now, like I said, I do think that as promising as the technology is, there are some significant risks for people. I joked with some folks in this space back years ago, and we were on, a little trip, and at one point our cell phone service went out, and I said, where's your Bitcoin now, boys? But we were laughing about it. They had all said, invest in Bitcoin, invest. And I looked and I saw if I had invested my very meager savings, well, I'd have 10 times that now. But the problem is, if you look back, I have friends who had massive amounts of Napster stock. and that didn't end
Didn't
up
work out.
being.
True.
So I think it's yet to be seen.
And what do you think will be a decisive factor of I mean, of course, you know the example of Netscape, they were pioneering. Of course, then Google came with a very simple search engine and at first, and they became a big company. But how do you, what are the decisive factors actually of success in technology?
So I say whether it's a campaign like we ran in Iowa and beyond, or a campaign for a business, the two things you need is money and oxygen. And they need to be focused on telling the right story and having that real message that engages your audience and really provides solutions at a large scale. I don't know that the technology companies have gotten it right thus far. You've seen, some changes in how companies are growing. And our company, we do believe that it's important to look at the global community and almost birth a company global. I got the chance to get to know the folks at Illumination who created the Minions before. And I don't know if you know their story, but their CEO went around the world looking at the best of animation, found a studio in Europe eventually after looking in Japan and Asia at the different animation, looking everywhere. They found a story in Spain. They worked with the studio and with collaborators around the world to create a product that I would argue not only appeals to the globe, but has real financial abilities, because now they can license their content around the world. So creating something that appeals to the globe is going to have longer staying power than one that appeals to just a certain sector of people. So I hope that people in this space look at creating those global companies with real values like ours, where respect, empower, include. I've heard that a lot at this conference, in the sense of they care about human rights, they care about these issues, and I think that they can represent that in a new way in technology.
Cool. Like Minions, I mean, even my kids have Minion bikes, so it's a very strong brand.
Oh, my son loves to be like, oh, my mom, and she knows. I got him some Minion stuff, and they're pretty popular, aren't they? They speak a universal language.
True. So, thank you very much, Johanna, for your time, and all the best, and enjoy your time in Europe. And we love to visit California once.
Oh, come visit us. California is wonderful. Okay. Los Angeles, the World City, and we've got the 2028 Olympics coming up. Keep your eyes out for Los Angeles, because it's all good there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.